guys, we're back talking some more Season 2 of Chucky on the channel with Episode 6. We're getting closer and closer to the end of Season 2, so we are really ramping things up. We had some pretty shocking reveals last week with the reveal that Jennifer Tilly is inside the original Tiffany doll, and also the fact that Dr. Mixter is working with the Colonel, and the Colonel is Bald Chucky of all people. Who would have thought that Bald Chucky would come back and be a pivotal role for the rest of Season 2? Even with all of those big shockers, this week we found a way to throw in some other big surprises, especially the ending. The ending is the thing that I think we're going to be talking about all week long. Since we saw that Andy was alive, I'm glad we opened up with a flashback back to that night and seeing how the rest of that stuff transpired, with him driving it off the cliff and being dragged away by the Colonel and the rest of the Chuckies that did survive, and kind of giving us a head count that there really aren't that many Chuckies alive anymore. We weren't really given an ample amount of time to get a good read on the Colonel a few episodes back, but now that he is in the spotlight, he actually is kind of intimidating with this calm, cool, sadistic demeanor. I think it was also kind of wild to me that he's been cutting pieces of Andy's leg off and eating them, so we got a cannibal Chucky. All of that had me a little bit nervous because he was going to go to Incarnate Lord and finish off everybody because the other Chuckies couldn't get the job done, and he didn't want Dr. Mixter to do it either. When it comes to Dr. Mixter, I feel like most people had a hunch about her being evil in some shape or form. She just kind of came off kind of nefarious. I don't know necessarily what her endgame is here. We don't even get that kind of idea in this episode on why exactly she's working with Chucky. Like, I don't know what she gets out of this relationship working together with him. Now, I wasn't entirely sure the angle we were going to take with Sister Ruth and buff Chucky, since she thinks he's the next coming of Jesus Christ, so I had to laugh at how goofy it was when she was washing his feet and pampering him, treating him like a god, while he's just chowing down on a box of community wafers and he's calling her Sister Act. All of it was a bit more goofy than I was anticipating. I was expecting humor, but a bit too goofy, at least for me. Even though I don't like Father Bryce at all, even he realizes how insane it sounds when Sister Ruth tries to convince him that Chucky is alive and he is the savior that's come back. The most interesting part to this for me, though, was it seems like Buff Chucky and the Colonel do not get along at all based on their interaction between them when they lock eyes through the window. I mean, I get it, they're Chuckies, they're not going to get along. None of them get along at Incarnate Lord, though, the more that I think about it. So maybe Buff Chucky is just a jerk to everybody. It would fit his character. I was mildly let down, though, by their interactions when they do kind of have a standoff. It's a Western-style standoff. I think maybe my expectations were set a bit too high, thinking it was going to be a really fun Chucky fight like we just saw between Buff Chucky and Good Chucky. So it was still a good subversion of expectations, since the Colonel uses his wits to overpower Buff Chucky and poison him with arsenic. What a way for him to go out, though. I honestly thought he was going to last a little bit longer, so it was kind of a surprise to just see him go out so early. After we saw Glenn have that nightmare of when they killed Joan back in Seed of Chucky, I really like the parallel here, now getting that perspective from Glenda waking up to the same nightmare, hiding with Kyle and Nika after they escaped Jennifer Tilly's house. Just to fanboy out a little bit, just as a longtime fan of the Child's Play franchise, it's just so cool to me seeing all three of these characters together in one room having conversations, because each of them, they kind of represent different eras of the franchise. With Kyle and Child's Play 2, Glenn and Glenda are both from Seed of Chucky, and then when we came back, we have Nika on the table. So it's just kind of cool seeing all of these eras connect once again into one storyline. There was never a doubt in my mind that Kyle survived that explosion at the end of last season, but it was still amusing to see Chucky so surprised that Kyle did survive the explosion, but she didn't leave unscathed. Unfortunately, she did lose an ear in the process, which is pretty brutal. All of these people that come in contact with Chucky, they're all losing limbs in one shape or form. Nika lost her arms and legs. Kyle's losing an ear, and Andy at this point in time has a big chunk of his leg missing because Bald Chucky keeps eating him. It's very messed up. I think Nika still is the most messed up of the bunch, but it's still messed up nonetheless. What is very exciting is it seems like we are finally converging this storyline with Nika, Kyle, and Glenda into the main storyline, because it seems like Dr. Mixter is the one that's going to help out in getting Nika and Chucky split out of that body. Not really sure how well that's going to go, especially by the end of this episode with the events that transpire. Sounds like they're setting up a pretty wild last few episodes, because we also have to factor in the fact that Jennifer Tilly, or Tiffany, I guess, she is on the way with Glenn and the original Jennifer Tilly. That, on top of the fact that Jennifer Tilly Tilly is just wanted for murder after burning down her home with all of the bodies in it, and her kids are wanted for questioning. So we have to factor them into this big epic climax that they're building up to, which I think is going to be insane. Honestly, it's madness everywhere. You got Incarnate Lord being locked down by Father Bryce, locking everyone in their rooms despite all of the red flags going off everywhere. Dr. Mixter is just openly walking around with the Colonel now, this creepy looking bald Chucky. Even bringing Andy into the school after they broke him out of the cabin, disguising him as a bum they just found walking around somewhere. That probably is the most believable part out of everything because Andy is looking pretty rough these days. I do love the planning, though, when it comes to preparing for the Colonel's arrival because they're all just hunkering down, which they're kind of forced to do anyways. But we do have Good Chucky. Good Chucky is the vital piece to this puzzle because he has great epic throwing knife skills because he pins a fly to the wall with his pen. Since there was so much build-up to this confrontation between the Colonel and the kids and the preparation for it, consider my expectations subverted when the Colonel does bust down the door. Then he starts rambling off random movie quotes before he falls to his death because we see he got stabbed in the back of his head with scissors. And of course, it was Andy that stabbed him in the head with the scissors. I mean, I totally get it. Andy hates Chucky's with a burning passion, especially this one in particular, since he was torturing him and eating him for a very long time. So it was justified that he would get the killing blow. I just expected a little bit of a skirmish before Andy kills him. He does try to kill Good Chucky too, and honestly, with the way we end things here, I almost kind of wish that he did kill Good Chucky, because I was so shocked with the ending with Dr. Mixter and Andy having a struggle over Good Chucky, and he escapes up the stairs and Nadine follows him, and Nadine does her best like we've been seeing her before to go and comfort Good Chucky when it seems like he's having doubts about himself, and when she goes to comfort him, he pushes her out the window to her death. I was not expecting Nadine to die at all, actually, but in such a gruesome, rude way. Like, oh my gosh, this show, man, killing people so unexpectedly in the most heartbreaking ways, pushing people out of windows. Part of me really wanted to believe that this Chucky could be good, and Devin and them were wrong in thinking that a Chucky could never actually be good, but they were proven right. Good Chucky apparently has a split personality kind of side that can come out, because Dr. Mixter had mentioned that it seemed like that was suppressed all this time, and after he pushes Nadine out the window, he snaps back to being kind of a good Chucky. So that's going to be very interesting to explore on what exactly the deal with that is, and it seems like the good Chucky is the only Chucky left to use as a vessel for the splitting between Chucky and Nika in one's body. I mean, what an episode. I mean, there's no really other way to describe it than just a shocker all around. But make sure you share your thoughts down below. What do you think of episode 6 of season 2 of Chucky? It's a pretty shocking one. So make sure you share all your thoughts down below in the comment section. What did you think? Did you like the episode? Did you not like the episode? How are you feeling about the big shockers here, especially Nadine's death, the death of the Colonel, and how we're wrapping things up for these last few episodes of season 2? Because I think it's going to get more and more insane as we head towards that finale. But either way, share your thoughts down below. Like I said, thank you guys for watching the reviews. I always do appreciate it. Make sure to like on the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. Some reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. But next time, I'll see you guys later.